All right, Chance Weber is the founder of Agile Co, a digital marketing company based in St. Louis, Missouri, with over 15 years of experience in marketing and advertising industries. Chance was able to turn his credit score of 483 to and a $15,000 loan from his parents into a digital marketing agency that is closing on the annual 8-figure mark. Chance has a natural talent for transforming a company's vision and goals into tangible revenue. And I know he's big into leadership. I know he's big into personal development, entrepreneurship, and I didn't mean to laugh at 483. That's pretty fucking pathetic, though. How'd you get so low? Did you just like extend yourself and not pay your bills?
Oh man, what didn't I do? No, and it's okay to laugh at it. I mean, it's all fun to laugh at now, right? But everything, man. Yeah, extended myself, credit card debt, had cars repossessed. Definitely made a lot of just poor decisions as a 20-something-year-old kid, trying to live outside of his means for sure. And, working in corporate America, not doing something that I was passionate about. It was just clock punching shit jobs to me. I mean, I'm not saying they're shit jobs or shit career paths, but to me they were. And when you hate what you do, it's really hard to be passionate. It's really hard to be good. It's really hard to excel. And I literally hated everything that I did until I started this company. So yeah, man, that's what got me there. It was not fun. It's never fun to wake up in the morning to go to work and your car's gone.
So I've never been there.
Good for you.
However, I've been in jobs that I hate. So I have two questions for you, like off the bat here. Overextending yourself and buying shit that you didn't need, which ended up, fucking your credit score up. What was it for? Maybe were you trying to impress people that you didn't know? I know a lot of entrepreneurs fall victim into that.
Yeah.
And number two, if you're open to sharing it, what did you hate about that job that was significant enough to make you be like, fuck this, I'm out?
Right. Yeah. I mean, first question is, I would definitely say it was ego thing. I would definitely say it was pretending to be, somebody that I wasn't, wanting to look rich, feel rich, maybe not even rich. Maybe that's the wrong word, but successful, knowing that, I was making $40,000-$50,000 living in a major city where the cost of living was, through the roof. I was in Chicago for right out of college all the way through starting this business. And, that's an expensive city to live in. I love that city, but man, making 50K there is like making 25, 30K in a lot of other places in this world. But yeah, man, it was definitely ego driven. It was definitely insecurities, definitely ego, trying to put on a front that I was somebody that I wasn't. Looking back on that, it's embarrassing as fuck, man, to be honest. But I think that when you're a kid, you have to go through that. And I was a 23 to, 20. I mean, I started my company at 29. So through, those 6-7 years through there, I grew up a lot. And, I had to get drugged through the mud to finally realize, like, man, I don't know who I'm trying to be, but this isn't who I am. I had to hit rock bottom.
Yeah, man. I understand. I've fallen victim to wanting to look more successful than I was, especially in my 20s. It might actually be part of the course, like to a degree, right? For people that are trying to like impress others. Like I've always been a car guy. So, in the beginning, in my mid 20s, when I was first getting started, I had a brand new sports car. I had a 370Z. I had a brand new CBR 1000 RR, and I had a brand new truck. And I was like 25, and I was making like maybe 40 grand. Maybe like
we're pushing, left you with nothing.
Nothing.
Right.
But because the insurance bills and the gas tanks and so on and so on, you don't plan for that when you're 24. You're like, whatever, I want to go 200 miles an hour. But I understand to a degree now. So now that we've established possibly why you were living beyond your means, what did you like hate about that position that you basically were like, all right, I need to change this and I need to do it now? Because I know I talk to a lot of people every day, just like you do. And very often I am faced with a situation to tell someone that they're in a situation they need to get the fuck out of.
Yeah.
So that bridge over actually leaving seems to be a huge hurdle for a lot of people, especially that want to become entrepreneurs. So what was it and how did you cross that bridge?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I didn't answer the second part of your last question of what I hated. Well, I was a financial advisor and then I did recruiting in financial services. So I kind of had that background. And man, here's the thing. I'm a salesman and I love to do sales. I love to do business development. I love to bring solutions to people that have a problem. It doesn't matter what it is, but in the same respect, I wasn't ecstatic as a 22-year-old kid to go sit down with a 60-year-old retired couple and say, hey, you should trust me with your entire life savings. I didn't know my
Let me roll that over.
Right. Like, you want to do this rollover with me? I've been on the job for 6 months. I can, help you for the rest of your life. So, that part of that concept I hated from the beginning. It also was something that I just wasn't truly passionate about. And when you're not passionate about what you're selling and it wasn't that I didn't believe in it. I just wasn't passionate about it. It didn't get me excited. I didn't wake up every day excited to talk to the next person and help them with their retirement planning. I actually hated it. I resented it. The concept of just what it was, it wasn't me. And I was successful. At least in the terms of, there was in my branch, I think I was the number one producer out of like 50 some agents that started.
That doesn't surprise me.
And I hated it though. I was absolutely miserable. So for me, it was just passion, being passionate about what I was doing. There wasn't any passion. It was a job. It was a way to make money and income, but I hated what I did. But as far as taking that kind of leap of faith, it was more out of desperation, if I'm being honest. Like, everybody talks about this woo-woo story about this amazing, transformation that they had in their mind. Mine was, I'm 29 years old. I have a 483 credit score. I'm a failure. Like, I knew I was not living up to my potential. And I was literally at this point where I didn't have anything to lose. I said to myself, at that point, I was single. I was dating a girl for like 5 years, but I was like, I'm single. I'm 29 years old. I have a 483 credit score. I have no money. Like, my mommy and daddy aren't going to save me. Nobody's going to save me. I don't have anything to lose and I have everything to gain. So let's go. Like, if not now, when? And it was ultimately out of just desperation and being at rock bottom and finding something that I was passionate about. The first book that I ever read was SEO for Dummies. It's a true story. Like, that book, the algorithm doesn't even function like what that book explained. This was 12 years ago now, but I found something that I was into and I got behind it and I was like, man, I can do this. And the more I learned, the more it just resonated with me. So it was a passion thing. And then when I actually became decent at it, which is, we're talking a couple, 2, 3, 4 years into this now, then I really fell in love with it. And now, like, there's nothing, like, I know I have an elite team. I know that I can do anything in the world that's out there in the digital marketing world. And now, like, I'm super passionate and I love helping businesses. Like, that helping them make money is the coolest shit ever. Like, I get emails. I'm not going to try to paint this picture that it's all the time, but every 2 to 3 months, I will get a client that sends me and my team an email freaking the fuck out to shut all their marketing off immediately because they can't keep up. We have completely overwhelmed them with leads and they cannot fulfill the leads that we are bringing to them. And that is the coolest feeling ever. Even e-com stores. Hey man, we're out of shirts. we can't sell anymore. You got to shut this shit off.
Cooked.
Right. Like,
press pause.
Right. It sucks because I'm essentially like losing business, right? Or I'm being put on pause or hold or whatever until they can get their shit figured out. But it's the most gratifying. That's a great problem as a business owner to have. It's a problem, but it's a great problem. And being the one that helps create that problem, I'll take that all day.
Yeah. Good problems are equally as tough to deal with as bad problems, I guess, depending on how you look at it. And being in that situation myself, I found not through paid ads, but other avenues of business exploding, right?
Mhm.
Something that I've found, and I'm sure you definitely consult your clients on this, is you need to have like a constant flow of people that want to come in and work for you, because
Yeah.
if you want to expand and do really well, you got to have people in the pipeline, in my opinion. And you know as well as I that Ed and Andy, who we learn business from, they teach the model of basically have a shadow for everybody.
Yeah.
And when you get to the point where you're going to call your marketing guy and be like, hey, turn it off. Now, I've never had that conversation. However, I've had to do like wait lists with clients and be like,
Yep.
I just can't take you right now because I have to onboard a whole bunch of people to be able to deal with this.
Yeah.
So that's a really good problem to have, but it's no less or more difficult, in my opinion, than say traumatic experiences that happen in business that might be looked at as negative.
No doubt. Yeah, man, I had a waiting list for, it was probably like 6, 8 months ago that I finally got off of a waiting list of clients. I had people signed like under contract, just waiting to work with us that I could not start because I did not have the team and I refused to. I had people in training, I had people I was building, but if I was to put those people in situations that they weren't ready for, then the service wouldn't have been there and I would have lost the client, right? So the attrition rate goes to hell quickly, which is a problem in my business. My business model, period, is built off of retention and then stacking more essentially clients than we're losing, right? Because there's always turnover in the service-based business, right? The churn's always there.
Yep.
But it was a hard thing to get out of that hole. And people are like, oh, that's just such a great thing. And to your point, it's like, no, it's not.
Yeah, not really.
No, it's not. And I had clients that bailed,
Yep.
like they were ready to go. I wasn't ready to go. They got tired of waiting and they left and they bailed. Like I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue by not being ready and not scaling fast enough. But I refused to let my service be sacrificed for the revenue. And I stand by that. And it hurt, and it hurts to look back on and think about, but I wasn't gonna onboard somebody just because they wanted me to onboard them. But again, it is a problem. It's cool to talk about, from an outsider's perspective, but it is a problem. And now I'm adamant on where we've got to the size of growth now where I can consistently be a couple of quote unquote account managers hired ahead. So I'm not in this situation like that anymore. I'm more scaled ahead now. And I can funnel that from a business perspective and a cash flow perspective. I can hire ahead now, but I couldn't, when we were smaller. So it's a hard thing to do when you have explosive growth like that.
Yeah, and it's equally as hard looking at the problem and being like, all right, I have to make this decision for what's best for the masses.
Yep.
And I know that it's going to affect some people. In your case, clients are going to leave. But if you diminish your product by maybe taking on too many people and not having the energy and time to pour your product to the capacity that it's known for and diminish it, that can be a really slippery slope down, as you may know or have seen or experienced. Because I had this mentor, Tom Plummer. He's like the greatest gym consultant to ever live. He's been doing it like 50 years. And when I used to own gyms, he would drill me on this. This is like 2017, 2018. He'd be like, hey, Chris, like never sacrifice 9 men to save one. Okay. Yeah. You have to do what's right for everybody. And some people are going to suffer. So fundamentally, making those high level decisions are not easy. And there are bits and pieces that could be painful, but the long-term aspect of the decision-making is really what you have to stay locked into, not the short-term dollar.
You do. Yep. And it goes the same way with terminating people, right? Yep. Like I have a no B player concept. I can't have B players. We're a small business. I don't even have aspirations to be a $50 million company. I don't want to be that. I don't want HR. I have no desire. I have other entrepreneurial investments and real estate and things like that I can grow personally with. I don't want this massive company. I want a family, but I have a no B player concept, and letting people go is a terrible thing, man. Watching like grown men cry when you have to let them go, dude, there is nothing more demoralizing, like nothing, but you have to take your emotions out of the business. To your point, 9/1. I have to take care of my A players. And if I have one B or C player that is bringing my team down, they have to go. And there's no exceptions. And it hurts and it's hard. I still don't think there's anything harder in business than terminating people, anything, especially laying off. Terminating because they're a terrible employee or they can't hack it, that's easier than laying off. To me, if you have to lay somebody off, you fucked up. You failed them, right? You failed them. That's on you. And that is the worst. I mean, I thank God, knock on wood, I've barely had to do it, but I have had to do it. And to me, that was just demoralizing to say I messed up. You know, I hired too fast. I did this too quickly and I have to put you on the streets now. And when I've done it, I've given, you know, thousands of dollars in severance and whatever else to try to make them transition. But man, that is a hollow ass entrepreneurial feeling right there, man. Like it makes you, it humbles you real quick. There's nothing that makes you feel like a bigger piece of shit, at least in my experience, than having to make those decisions. But again, you have to take your emotion out of business. You have to. If you operate on emotion, you're buried. Like you're never going to make it ever.
Yeah. Firing people it used to be one of the most feared things that I had to do, right? The little bit of fear that was left in me. And as I was coming up and like as a gym owner, my shelf life of a front desk worker is approximately 90 days in and out, right? So it's 19-year-olds, 90 days in and out, right? You know,
Right.
going back to school, whatever the situation is. But the point is I feared it because it hurt. It literally hurt me to do it. And one of the biggest lessons that I ever learned, you probably learned this one too. I had to learn to look myself in the mirror and be like, have I done everything I can for this person before I terminate them? Because if the answer is no, you shouldn't be going around terminating. I'm not saying you. No. I'm just saying the answer is no.
No, you're right.
You shouldn't be going around fucking terminating people. You should be getting your own head out of your ass as the leader, as the entrepreneur, and try to help this person. One of the biggest things that I used to do is like, you know, say a 19-year-old, like I call my example is little Johnny. Little Johnny would come in late, you know, like 10 minutes late with like a Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I don't know if they have Dunkin' Donuts in the Lude, but you know, out here in New England, there's Dunkin' Donuts everywhere.
Right.
And little Johnny becomes strolling in. I'd be like, little Johnny, like, did you even bring me one? No, you know, whatever. And like at first I'd be like, oh man, I gotta fire this guy if he does it again. But then I would think to myself, I'd be like, well, why is he late? Does he know how to schedule his time? Does he know how to plan his time? Does he know how to schedule and plan his time?
Yeah.
And when I started taking that approach to things, and I know your situation's massively different, but taking the approach of how can I help this person first before I get rid of them? And I think a lot of owners fail to do that. I don't know if you would agree. Yeah.
Well, dude, to me, that's self-awareness.
Yes.
A leadership team, we review everybody quarterly. And if we have an employee that we're struggling with, that what you said is the very first question that I asked them. What have we done to help him or her? What have we done to help her through this situation? What have we done to grow her skill set? And if we can't answer that question, then we have failed, not that person.
Exactly.
And they have to be able to answer that question. Like, I will not let them off the hook. What have you done to help her get through this?
Right.
And if I can't get that answer, that person's not a problem. We are a problem as a leadership team. And man, I think that, you know, just in general statement on that, I think that's another way that entrepreneurs fail so badly. Every fucking thing that is wrong in your business is your fault. And the sooner that you can understand that, the faster you're going to grow, the more respect you're going to get from your people. But every single thing that is wrong is your fault. I just went through a tough loss. We lost some clients in the last 2 months on a rip that I haven't been on in a while. I know we talked about talking about this or not, but that was the one thing that I sat back and did. You know, my initial reaction was like hurt and pain. And I want to go to my team and be like, what the fuck did you do? What did you not do? You know, like, but I'm like, whoa. And I never did that because I've been through this. I'm 40 years old. I've been an entrepreneur for 11 years. I was able to take a step back and go, what did I not do? And man, I put 17 new policies in place, and half of those were for yours truly.
Mm-hmm.
There were things that I needed to do differently, that I needed to do better,
Personal
that
systems.
I didn't enable, where I got away from things that I've done that made me successful. 17 policies. And I think 8 or 9 of them were chance policies, me policies, that my team is responsible for holding. We're all responsible for holding each other accountable around, because I had failed them. So that is like the biggest thing that to me, you're just a dumbass entrepreneur if you just fire people. And you, like I said, every problem is yours at the end of the day, unless you're, you said Andy Frisilla, right? I mean, at a company of that size, he has so many layers of management that, that probably comes underneath of him at a certain point. But in any type of small business, or medium size for that matter, every problem is for everyone.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. There's this concept that I write about in my book called the 99-to-1 rule. Fundamentally, it's a philosophy that 99% of shit in your life is your fault. It's your responsibility. That 1% is like, you got hit behind at a red light, like you got molested or raped as a child, like the extreme outliers. Right. And in business, just like you said, the sooner you have the extreme ownership, not only the more money you're going to make, but the more fun you're going to have in life, and the more fulfilling your day is going to be, because you're like, oh shit, this is my responsibility. And I'll give an example here in a second. But what I'm getting at is, unless it's performance based, unless it's strictly performance based, if you as the entrepreneur do not look in the mirror and try to pick apart what you have or have not done for that person before you fire them, if you haven't done that, you as the entrepreneur are the problem. You just don't realize it yet. And I don't mean you. I mean, I
get it.
The entrepreneur.
You're right.
Right.
110%. You're right. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, man. Let's talk about personal policies going in place as owners. How about last week? So I have multiple companies, and the way that I have things organized is I have directors that run each company, right? They're not big. There's a couple people per company, and we all cross-pollinate between the companies and cross on work and so on and so forth. But one of my directors no-showed me on a personal coaching call, not on a business call. Once a month I meet with my team. Hey, how's life? How's family? What's going on? Can I help you with this, that, anything else? No-showed. I was like, huh? She's always punctual, and she's always early. She's always early on Zoom. Like, she's always early. My personal policy is, if someone doesn't show up within 5 minutes to my meeting or my call, they get a text message from me. Hey, are you okay? If someone doesn't show up within 10 minutes, hey, listen, I got to move on to the next thing. Just like your time is valuable, my time is valuable, yada, yada. That's my personal policy. Now, what I didn't take into account is this individual's retired, and this individual is helping, and this individual is much older. And I texted, but I didn't pick up the phone call to see if that person was okay for our Zoom call. And when you deal with people that might be a little bit older, when it comes to reading the screens and so on and so forth, sometimes it's not ideal for them. And I didn't take that into consideration. So when I finally spoke to the person, I was like, hey, I'm just happy you're okay. She's like, yeah, Chris, I wish you would have just called me. I was like, fuck.
Yeah,
you're right. And that personal policy went in place immediately for not only me, but the company. Now it's not a text message within 5 minutes. It's pick up the phone and call if you're not on the Zoom call, or meet in person. So the self-awareness, and I think the buzz term is soft skills, the soft skills will save your ass in life and in business. Specifically self-awareness, right? Because like, if you could just get over your own shit, and I know we're beating a dead horse here, but if you can get over your own shit and just take responsibility for the majority of the mistakes, then you're going to make a a much better time out of life, let alone more money. And the interesting part that we're getting into here is money, right? And,
Yeah.
I have a big question for you when it comes to money and family, right?
Yeah.
Granted, I introduced you, I would imagine you're doing north of 8 figures annually or whatever you're on
Yeah.
track
We're,
for.
we're right there. Yep.
Right. So, when you're doing $10+ million a year in revenue, I mean, that's a considerable amount of money for a small business. And typically it also means a higher level of income for the owner, right? Depending on where you are in the journey. My question to you is, as you came up over the past 11 years, I know without even asking you the answer to this, but I'm assuming you hustled your ass off. And I know you have a family too. So just like we were talking about that bridge from working from a place you hated into entrepreneurship, where was the point, if you've gotten there, which I'm pretty sure you have, where's the point where you're making a whole shitload of money, but you look at yourself in the mirror and be like, is my family suffering?
Yeah.
Am I not there for my family? Like, you have kids, right?
Yeah. 2 and 5-year-old girls. Yeah.
You got 3 girls. You at least have a male dog.
I do. So
Okay.
I've got 2-year-old girl, 5-year-old girl, and I'm married to a girl. And then I do have a boy dog, and
Okay.
he's my guy.
Yeah.
He's the only testosterone in the house. So
you guys are like bros.
we are bros. We bro out all the time. So yeah. Yeah, no, man. This is, look, the first thing I'll tell you is nobody does this shit perfectly. Nobody. I am not this is being a bit vulnerable with you. I am not a natural parent. I am not a like overly caring person. Like I'm not a nurturing human being. My wife is incredibly nurturing. She's the exact opposite of me, which is why we work so well together. My wife stay-at-home mom. She is a pediatric sleep consultant. So she does that a little bit, but she doesn't work a ton. And that's by design. We're choosing that to help raise our kids. But I have to work to be a parent, man. Like I have to work at that. I have to work at being a good husband. So, a couple big things that we did first on the marital side is my wife and I have been married for 7 years now. When we were about 3.5, 4 years in, we got a little bit rocky with our relationship. And a lot of that's probably when I was probably started making around like 7 figures around then. And money had become really, really good, right? We did whatever we want. At that point, we had our new home. We built a lake home. We had a boat. We have all this stuff, and all the materials essentially at that point
did that shit quick.
Yeah, it all been checked off, right? The boxes, like from the outside looking in, everything looked great, but we weren't good. We weren't connected.
Yeah.
There's this book, man. It's super popular. I don't even know what the name of it is. It's like the 7 love languages or something love languages.
Okay.
But we were advised to read this by somebody, and we both read it. And then we wrote out like what our love languages were.
And you learned each other's?
We learned each other's.
Yeah.
And I don't give a shit about mine anymore.
Right.
I just know if I focus on hers and she focuses on mine, then we're both going to be fulfilled. I approach my kids the same way. My 2 kids are exact bipolar opposite kids. One of them is like on the destiny to be a nurse, very nurturing, loving, caring, thoughtful. She's just like her mom. My 2-year-old is a psychopath, just like me. She's a problem. She has an attitude. She's going to get her way or no way. No, I'm kidding, kind of. But they both need different fulfillments from daddy. But a couple of things that I've tried to do is I have to put my phone down, man. Like I have to put it down.
Big right there.
I have to. And if I don't put it down and turn it upside down, I don't get notifications. I don't know how many unopened emails I have, texts. I keep all that shit off, but it's still, if it's there, I'll grab it.
Yep.
So I have to put that phone down. But I think that again, I just listed this 40 things that I've learned in life through 40 years.
Oh, I like the shit out of that. Yeah.
We've hit on a couple of them. And one of them was, self-awareness is a superpower.
Yep.
Because to me, like, I don't know if there's a more, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know if self-awareness is an emotion, it's an attribute, but whatever it is, having that.
It's a skill. Yeah.
Right?
It's a soft skill.
That, like my kids need me.
Yeah.
And if I'm really being honest, I get home every day. I try to get home earlier because my kids go to bed at 7 o'clock.
Right.
So, I'm home for like a 2 hour window
Mm-hmm.
where it's
While they're
dad
awake.
time and dinner time. And then I help put them to bed. I'm as present. I try to be as present as I can possibly be. And if I am terribly distracted, I make sure, like, if I've got a fire that I need to put out, or I have something going on where like I have to work, the next day, that fucking phone is done. Like, they're getting every single minute of that entire time. But a lot of it is just having the awareness around it and communicating. My wife and I both come from absolutely nothing, man. We grew up poor. Um, my mom went into credit card debt to put shoes on my feet, so I had basketball shoes and football shoes and things like that in high school. My parents got divorced when I was young. But neither one of us come from anything. So we have to have talks all the time as well. Like, listen, we have completely changed the trajectory of our family. And sometimes we find ourselves drifting down the money route, right? Of things that we feel like we're getting outside of the scope of our core values of who we are and where we came from. We talk about this stuff. So I think, open communication with your spouse is very important. But I don't know if you know who Joel Marion is. But he was an original OG Arate guy, the original 62 guys back in the day. Joel's got a company that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, supplement lines. But Joel said something to me, and I'll never forget it. But he said, you always have to prioritize God, 1, your spouse, 2, your kids or your family, 3, in that order.
And then business.
And then just life, right? Because if you're not in touch with God, then you're not going to be wholesome with your wife. And if your marriage isn't solid and you're not in a good place, then that's going to impact your children, right? So you have to prioritize. And I'm not trying to get all holy, whether you believe in God or not.
Bro, first thing I do in the morning is faith.
There you go. So I pray every night before I go to sleep. But I'm just saying, if even if you're don't believe in God, your spouse is still before your kids, because if that is messed up, then that impacts your children.
Yeah.
So I think open communication and having dedicated time, like, we make an effort. And are we the best parents in the world? No, but I do think we're pretty damn good at it. I do think that we give our kids a great life. Like, I can wake up every day and look in the mirror and I know my kids are living a good life. Like, I know they are. There's no doubt in my mind. They're living a great life, 20 times the life that I lived as a kid at that age. And it's not just about the money. It's the love that they're shown and they're given, and the opportunities that they have, the experiences that we're giving them. My kids have been out of the country multiple times. They're 2 and 5. We just got their passports renewed. We're taking them to Turks and Caicos at sometime, hopefully in like January or February.
Beautiful.
So the money does become a piece of that. But to me, it's more so about the experiences, and we've been blessed, and we make sure that they get that. It's not about spoiling them. We are very strict parents. You ever meet my kids? Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, thank you. I run a tight ship, and I want them to be raised with those morals, and I want them to have resources. But if they become spoiled brats, I've failed. So I'm very strict on things like that. But again, I'm getting on a little bit of a tangent, but I think the biggest thing is just communicating and loving them and making sure that you dedicate that time to them. You have to dedicate it. Otherwise you won't. If you're not aware of it, it will not happen. It just won't happen.
Gold advice. Gold. And I don't think you went on a tangent. I think you explained it very well. And if I had to make an observation, your wife is probably very feminine. She has like a lot of feminine energy. So she's really good at like taking care of the kids.
Yes.
Amongst other things. I'm not like saying that's all that feminine energy is good at. Feminine energy is beautiful and it's many layers to it. And then your masculine energy, right? So you guys work off of each other, but one is no more powerful than the other, but the nurturing nature is more of a feminine energy. And that's likely why you were like, shit, I need to learn how to like be a parent. I mean, we all need to learn how to be better humans on a day-to-day basis, let alone parent or person or whatever you want to say. But my follow-up question is this: that rocky point that you hit, like year 3, 4, 5, something like that. What? Because this is what people really learn from. What was that point? Like, what was the red flag, the big red flag that was like, shit, we need to work on our marriage?
Yeah, well, we have a unique marriage. Like, we genuinely do not fight. I mean, my wife and I have, we'll say, a quarterly disagreement, and maybe there's some type of fight like one per year. Like we just don't fight. We're not those people. We don't fight. We're both good at kind of like walking away.
Yeah.
And then coming back, cool, calm, and collected. You know what I mean? And talking it through and being cool. But we were at each other's throats, and every little thing was pissing each other off. And it was like, whoa, like I love you, you love me. We have a beautiful family. We have everything in the world. Like, what is wrong?
Right.
And that was the whole love language thing. Like my wife wants me to empty the damn
That's
dishwasher.
what it was. Okay.
She wants me to empty the dishwasher and go to the park with my kids for an hour. And she's the happiest woman on earth. You know how fucking easy that is to do?
It gets her going.
But I didn't know that. Right?
Acts of service and quality time.
There you go, my man. So once I understood those things, right, it was like, damn, like this is all I have to do for you to feel loved. Yeah. Empty the damn dishwasher. It takes me 5 minutes. Yeah. That's what you need me to do. Mm-hmm. No problem. I got it forever. Right. Yeah. You know, so and it just got us so much, you know, more aligned as a whole, just to understand the other one. That was another one of my 40 things of 40 was it's more important to understand your significant other's love languages than your own. Your own aren't important because if you're fulfilling them, they're going to fulfill you. And it's just that simple. So, but yeah, that was the pivotal point. We were just not getting along well. We were not connected. And that's what triggered that in general as a whole was just, but again, it all comes back to self-awareness. That's where people just continue to spiral and they get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Next,
and I was going to say that,
talking about the D word, right? Next thing you know, is are we going to get divorced? And it becomes this big fucking ordeal when you were just misaligned. Like you got to come back to that. And, you know, we've made a promise to each other that if that ever happens again, we're going to come back to that book. We're going to read it again and work through that. We haven't. It's been years now at this point. It's been great. But again, self-awareness, like everything, if there's one common denominator of this talk we've had today, every single thing that we just talked about, if you have self-awareness, you're so much better at everything we talked about, right? You're so much better from firing people, hiring people, understanding clients, your relationship with your spouse, your children, how to parent. You have to be self-aware. You also have to understand like what you're not good at. You know, like I literally said, I'm going to be a bit vulnerable with you. I'm not a good parent. It's not that I'm not a good parent. I'm not a good natural parent. Parenting doesn't come naturally to me, but I have the self-awareness to understand I'm not great at this naturally. I got to work at it. I've got to learn. I've got to adapt. So I do, and I work at it. But, you know, I think the other big thing that I was just going to say that just comes to mind is this shit's hard, right? Business is hard. Marriage is hard. Parenting is hard. We have a society where people are just so fucking soft. Everybody just wants to quit.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to get a divorce than it is to work on a marriage.
Yeah, man.
It's so much easier to just tell your kid to go play than it is to get on the floor and play with them.
Right.
It's so much easier to just fire somebody when something goes wrong in your company than take a step back and look in the mirror and go, what did I do?
And do this.
Yes. Yeah. Point at yourself. Exactly.
No, it's your fault. It's not this. It's your fault.
Exactly.
So easy.
You know, but this shit's not hard. And I think if you just understand every day when you're going into it, there's going to be challenges. It's going to be hard. You just got to fucking get through them the best way that you can. It makes life so much easier to just know that the suck is going to come. Like embrace the suck. It's going to come. You just have to handle it the best way that you know how and that you can. That's the key to life, man. It really is, because it never, ever stops, ever.
And it always
never stops.
You're dropping gold here. And I'm going to say two things. Even though that you've given us advice this entire time, I'm going to ask you for one piece of advice after I make a statement, but one piece of advice that if you can go back to 29-year-old Chance and be like, yo, motherfucker, pay attention. Yeah. I need to deliver this to you right now. What would that piece of advice be? But pause. I want to say something that I want to ask if you agree with while you're thinking of that piece of advice. As one of the things that I do, a very small capacity, is consult businesses and mentor primarily men. Mm-hmm. And there's this one common thing that I always discuss. And quite often I'm asked, well, Chris, I want to make a lot of money. What should I invest in? And my answer, whenever I hear that question, I'm always talking to the same type of person in their journey of life, which is elementary. They're elementary. And when it comes to many things, And my answer is always the same. And I want to know if you agree with it. The best thing that you can invest in with that question is yourself, specifically your soft skills, like self-awareness. Would you agree?
I would agree. And it's funny you say that. I would also answer your question of the number one piece of advice that I would have has a ton of overlap with that.
Ooh, good.
Yeah, it does. If I could go back when my business journey changed, honestly, man, it's not even my business journey. It's my whole damn life. Like how I evaluated things when my
you get it. You get
I
it.
get it. My life changed when I got mentors.
Yep.
If I could do one thing all over again, I would have had a mentor from day one. If I could have somebody like you at 29 years old right now, to help me, or somebody like me to help my 29-year-old self.
Yeah.
Dude, I have lost millions of dollars. Millions by being a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
If I would have had somebody to help me or teach me or tell me or say, don't do that, here's why, because the mistakes I made weren't rocket science. You didn't have to have an MBA. I look back at some of the shit I've done and I didn't make them after I got mentors, and I did get better advice, and I did hire differently, and I did fire differently, and I did grow differently. And mentorship, man, like it is so undervalued, and people just look at it as this expense that they don't need. I spend 6 figures a year on coaching. Literally, I don't even know what it is. It's over $100,000 a year.
Double what I do. Yeah.
I mean, $100,000 a year to help me be better. Yep. So if I don't have to write those checks, no. Right? Like in society's world, I'm a extremely successful, awesome guy. Let me tell you, I got a lot of fucking work to do. And I write those checks because I need to get better. And if I don't continue to grow, I'm going to hit a wall. I mean, I didn't know how to understand, net profits. I didn't understand anything. And if I would have known that stuff earlier, I would have been so much better. Even Claudio Gambin that we were talking about, my finance guy, before we jumped on here. If I would have had him controlling and handling my finances 5 years ago, compared to the last 2 years, I probably have twice the net worth that I do. But I was a financial advisor. I did know the shit that I was doing, but I didn't. Like I hadn't been in that game for 15 years. What the hell do I know now? I don't know anything, right?
Right.
But having your circle of people that help you, consultants, mentors, etc. Man, like it is the greatest money that you can ever spend. So when you talk about investing in yourself, to me, that is investing in yourself. Like that's the number one way that you can invest in yourself.
You could hire someone to teach you. Is it fundamentally what, and when it comes to self-awareness, along with everything else like taxes and net profit and whatever, everything you want to say, but
endless layers.
And we all have a lot of work to do. And I think once we all accept that we're all just getting started, no matter where we are on the journey, it opens up abundance of everything in life.
Really does. It changes your life. It changes it.
Yeah. It's humbleness. It's humbleness realizing, okay, great. I've been in business for a decade. That is a cough in the wind to
it's nothing.
Some of the greats, let alone people that are living.
Right. No doubt.
It's like, all right, I figured out a couple things, but I need to figure out a whole lot more. Right. And the first thing that I think is really important to figure out is yourself. Self-awareness. I'm happy that we had this conversation today, specifically on self-awareness, and you did a fantastic job explaining everything, dude. And
appreciate that.
Yeah, man. And I know you're doing a huge push on your speaking and your personal brand and, educating. And I think that from one educator to another, awesome fucking work, dude. And I really want to make sure that if people are going to want to follow you, where would they get at you?
Yeah, Instagram is probably the best. It's Chance, CHANS, B as in boy, Weber. That's my handle on Instagram. You can also find me on Facebook, and the company is agileandco.com written out. I love connecting with people, man. So I know I was in your group, in your mastermind a while ago, and I took several phone calls after that with your people. I just love to help, and I genuinely mean that. So yeah, people can find me any of those places.
Yeah, TJ told me about the guy in the van. Told me about the call with you. He's like, Chris, he said everything you say. I'm like, yeah, no shit, bro. There's no magic fucking wands, people. You have to put in the fucking work.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
that's funny.
But I'm going to put all your links in the show notes, and I didn't mean to talk over you there, but anybody that wants to get a hold of you, I encourage it. We'll do all the backlinks and your links for your companies and personal stuff. And,
sure.
and thank you for giving us your time today and your knowledge, specifically on self-awareness and marriage. I think it was eye-opening for me, and I would imagine many other people, dude. So I appreciate your time, dude.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it today.
Of course. We'll catch you next time.
Sounds good.